All right, I'm going to show you how to build a fire for your wood fire, your Weber. It doesn't really make any difference, but getting the fire right is probably one of the most important things before you start cooking, and then the maintenance of that fire. What do we do if we want an extra hot fire? What do we do if we want to cook something at a slightly lower temperature? You're going to find out how to do all of it today. All right, in order to give you the best perspective, we've got one camera going here, and we also have Rob with incredibly large biceps. Don't be alarmed, from time to time you'll feel this like massive movement. It's just Rob flexing his biceps. So, to start the fire off, we need some newspaper. Look, newspaper, it's about all it's good for, to be honest with you. Starting a fire. Scrunch up a few pages. Don't go excessive amounts, otherwise you'll end up with like a mountain of ash inside your Weber or inside your wood oven, so you don't want to do that. I've done 4 pieces, it's more than enough, okay? I've got some wood. I'm using red gum wood. Why? 2 things. One, it's a very hard wood. It burns for a long period of time, and because it's a hard, dense wood, it burns at a very high temperature. So to start the fire though, you can't just lob on massive lumps of wood. So I want to cut at the very beginning a few pieces down smaller so as it catches, kind of like almost kindling size. So just get it in, break it off. See that? So that's like typical kindling size. And then you want a couple of ones that are a little bit bigger, like that. If you try and put this on at the very beginning, like a piece of wood that size, it's just going to smoke excessively, and your fire's not going to start well. So I'm going to cut another couple of pieces off of here. And then kindling. What I like to use, rather than standard normal kindling, you can buy this at like hardware stores and most petrol stations as well. It is kindling, but it's been soaked in tree resin, right? Which means that when you put a flame on it, it just goes woof. But you don't get any of that filthy kerosene, or, you know, like people put lighter fluid on fires. It stinks. Stop doing it. Natural. It's just tree resin and kindling, right? So you need some of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Done. Okay, so what we want to do is mix our kindling resin, guys, in along with the paper. And what you're going to do is stick this at the back corner of the wood fire, right? Right? Get it, Rob? Right, then get the smallest bits of your wood that you've cut up and stick them just on top. So just as I'm putting them in, I'm crisscrossing the wood. I'm never sitting them, oh my God. So I'm not sitting wood on top of each other like that, always crisscross, always at an angle to make sure that the air can get in and start the burning. So there it is. So that is the beginnings of a great fire. All we need now is the blowtorch and light it up. So what happens is the paper disappears real quick, but it's enough to set the resin kindling on fire. And then these burn super quick, they don't last long, whereas the smaller bits that you cut up of the redwood last a little bit longer. So by the time the redwood bits are on fire, you can start loading up smaller bits, but any smaller pieces of your hardwood that you've got will go on the fire first before you stick a big bit like that on. And always remember, if you've got a small wood oven, you can't put a piece of wood that big in your wood fire because it will just smoke. it won't actually catch on fire. By the time it catches on fire, you will have smoked yourself out. So the fire now, smoke's sort of died down a little bit. You can see that the redwood is fully on fire. The resin wood, which is where much of the smoke comes from in the beginning, that's starting to dissipate. But the important thing is I can see that the smaller parts of the redwood are really on fire. So I know now I can stick slightly bigger bits of redwood on the fire and get it built up. So again, I'm just putting them in, again, crisscross every time, so there's enough air circling around the fire that it can actually catch, you know? Before you add wood, you need a hot fire. Once we actually get going, you've got a bed of hot coals. Although you can't see flames, the coals are super hot. The oven will be around probably 400, 450 degrees C. And as soon as you add timber to that, it'll immediately set on fire anyway because of the residual heat in the oven. But at the beginning, you need power in your fire to set hardwood like this. All right, so the fire's really, it's well on its way now. I've got a couple of sort of medium-sized logs in there that have just started to catch on fire. Now I want to be heating up the wood oven itself. So in order for that to happen, I need to close the door. In most of these, or any wood oven, you'll have some kind of airflow vent. In this case, it's this little handle at the front. Obviously, full open or full closed. What I want to do is open it about halfway, and what that does is allow some air to be sucked in. It goes into the fire and comes out the chimney. If you close the door and there is no chance for air to come in, the fire won't actually get hotter. So there is this sort of happy ground where air is allowed to come in, plus there's the bulk of the door is closed to allow the temperature of the whole oven to heat up. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to cook anything in it, right? So I'm just going to leave that for about 15-20 minutes before I start sticking on a couple of bigger bits of hardwood once I know that there's a bed of hot coals ready to receive them. All right, so it's been about 45 minutes since we lit the fire in the first place. And remember, we started off with 4 sheets of paper, 10 pieces of resin-soaked kindling, and then a few sort of kindling size chopped down pieces of redwood. And then I stuck 2 small bits of redwood on top of that. Let's have a look at it now. All right, look at that. It's looking good. You can see that the log that's at the very, very back is fully on fire. It's white hot. It's looking really good. So I'm just going to I'm going to take a little probe and see how hot the stone is. So we're only at 180 degrees, 160 around the outside at the very front of the oven. So it's not that hot currently. The fire itself, yeah, it's maxing out, so it's getting hot, but our base, our stone, simply isn't hot enough to cook pizza on. So what we want to do is just give the fire a bit of a shuggle. Move that log back on top. We'll add another couple of small bits, medium-sized bits on the fire as well. So again, just nice medium-sized. The biggest thing that people get wrong is that the timber is too big, you know, and if it's too big, like I was saying before, it's like, that's too much. It's just gonna smoke, do you know what I mean? Get an axe, cut it down. This is good for a small wood oven like that. It means that it can burn. That'll only burn for about sort of 40 minutes, and you have to keep adding more. So straight on top, crisscross sort of fashion. And we'll shut the door again and just leave that to go for another sort of half an hour to 45 minutes before we're ready to start using the oven. All right, so it's been probably about an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4 since we lit the fire originally. It should be about temperature to do pretty much anything in now. So let's have a little, yeah, we're at 300 degrees on the base. So we know we're in the right zone for a pizza. The fire itself is screaming hot. It'll be up 500-600 degrees, which is perfect. You can have a look in the fire. We've got a really nice bed of coals. So when I'm thinking about cooking, if I want to do, say I'm cooking and I want to sear like a nice thick tuna steak, for example, what I would be doing is getting, you know, a pizza slice or, you know, a long instrument of some type and just moving the hot coals around a little bit to let more heat out before I stick the food in, right? Likewise, if I'm going to stick on another log, I'll just tidy up the coals a little bit, tidy up the ash into the middle. What happens is the ash falls off of the hot coals, which lets more heat come out of them. And that way, when you put in a fresh log on, it catches on fire as soon as possible rather than smokes. Or if you're cooking in it, it just elevates that temperature real quick. Now, if I wanted to do, you know, like a pizza, I love putting some small pieces about that wide of hardwood, the red gum that I'm using. I'll stick 1 or 2 pieces on there so as they start smoking in the inside of the chamber while I'm cooking my pizza. That helps your wood-fired pizza get an even more wood-fiery kind of flavor. So you'll never be able to do any of that, of course, if you don't start the fire properly, which is why I wanted to show you it. So hopefully that gives you everything you need to know and how to start your fire, but also how to maintain it while you're cooking. Thanks for watching, and if you liked that, please click subscribe because there's plenty more where that came from. Also, if there's a recipe that you actually want to see me make, chuck it in the comments below and we'll get around to it. Thanks for watching.